AI is not changing productivity specifically as fast as some proponents and also detractors have hoped or feared that it might. And the reason why is because of something in engineering called the 80-20 rule, which basically just says that the 80% of the effort of a project comes in the last 20% of the project. Obviously, this is a bit of a tautological falsehood because really, if 80% of the effort's in the last 20%, then that's not the last 20%, it's actually the last 80%. But the point is that it comes in what you think is the last 20% of the project. You might only budget out a couple weeks to do this problem that turns out to actually be gargantuan in size. And the exact same thing is proving to be the case in AI, where we have certain breakthroughs, and as soon as these breakthroughs happen, everyone within the AI space, which includes me, by the way, I was an AI researcher for some time, and I studied applied math, and I worked in a research lab, and I worked for Meta doing computer vision. Every time there's a breakthrough, there's all this excitement because people think, well, maybe this is the moment that AI actually starts recursively improving on itself. But the truth is that AI is already recursively improving on itself. AI already can be used to assist in making changes to AI systems. But what we keep finding time and time again is that actually, even with these major breakthroughs, and a lot of them really are major, some things that would have been considered like almost impossible to do, maybe it'll take decades a few years ago, were accomplished by brilliant scientists and also just by scaling up existing hardware and architecture. Well, it turns out that even once you solve these landmarks that people think, oh, once we solve this, then the rest of it's easy from there. It turns out it's not actually easy. And that's because of the nature of engineering. When you have a problem right in front of you that you've been working on for a while, you can see how hard it is because you can see all of the aspects of it that make it difficult to solve. But when you have a problem that is, as of yet, maybe not even fully formed, in the words of, I think it was Donald Rumsfeld, unknown unknowns, right? You might have a problem you aren't even aware exists, or even if you do know it exists, you say, well, once we solve this milestone, once we solve this technical hurdle, then this other problem will be incredibly easy. But because you don't really know anything about that problem, because you haven't been able to work on it yet, you don't realize that there are so many more intricacies and issues arising with it that you're not even aware of yet. And so that's why people talk about the 80-20 rule, where the thing you think is going to be super easy, just the capstone of the project, you'll be working on it for maybe a couple days tops, ends up taking a super long time. And the exact same principle is applying to AI, where every single benchmark that we put in front of AI, it passes really fast. It might take a couple months for us to blow through this benchmark that everyone thought that's just like so impossible. Once AI manages to reach this benchmark, then truly there are no limits to the economic growth we might see. But then in reality, we blow through this benchmark and productivity rates stay exactly the same, or maybe even go down. And economic growth isn't taking off. In fact, we're about to enter a recession right now. And there's just countless other counterexamples where we did manage to achieve the technical thing that people thought was going to be so difficult and the key to solving everything, but it doesn't turn out to be the key to solving everything because there are further problems that we haven't even conceptualized yet. And this sort of explains why even though AI is rapidly changing society, and it's actually causing a ton of problems, it's not showing up in the growth statistics. This is where that Paul Krugman quote comes in that people often ridicule him for, but he actually kind of turned out to be more right than not in some ways, where he said that by a certain year, we'll see that the impact of the internet has been no greater than that of the fax machine. And everyone makes fun of him because the internet, obviously hugely impactful. You're watching this on the internet right now, most likely. And it allows us to find information from all over the world. I could train myself to be an electrical engineer from scratch if I wanted to. Some people have done it. And so you'd think this technology, which is capable of so much, would have totally transformed society. And in some ways it has. But what Paul Krugman was talking about is the growth statistics. And in some ways, and he'll even say this himself, in that article, in that full essay, there were a couple things that didn't turn out to be 100% correct. But in terms of the impact on growth statistics, he was 100% right. Growth today is lower than it was in the 90s. The internet didn't radically change every single aspect of our economy. And even though it made so much possible, the growth rate is exactly chugging along, because even though it made possible a lot of good things, it turns out it also made possible a lot of bad things. And society, we depend on constant innovations, right? Well, the internet isn't the only innovation that's ever existed. The fax machine itself was a transformative innovation. It allows you to send information instantly across the world in much the same way the internet does. And yet, we did have economic growth during that time period, but it wasn't insane economic growth. Same for the internet, same for AI. It just turns out that even with a truly transformative technology, it might boost growth a little bit, but it also might bring with it unforeseen problems. And it also might simply just not work as well as we hope for reasons that we haven't even thought of yet. And so I do think we need to be concerned about AI. I do think we need to be concerned about building AI that is actually useful for people. Because one thing that we see, one reason actually why AI has not been as transformative as we hoped, is because AI is being used for the same kinds of things that humans are already good at. I made a video about this a couple days ago, I think, maybe a week, in which I talked about how the Chinese government actually is trying to take AI in a different direction. And certain groups of people within the United States or other places are as well, where they're trying to make it more human-centric. And by that, I mean actually building AI that's good at things that humans are bad at, and therefore stuff that's useful to us. We've been building AI that's really good at doing things like deceiving people, but people are already good at that, and that's also not a socially beneficial function. But we haven't been working nearly as hard at building AI that can solve technical challenges. There are people that are working at this. There are some people that are working on related issues, but a lot of the money is just going into building bigger and bigger large language models, the kinds of things that make very persuasive deep fakes, that make therapists that will tell you to do really bad things and nobody will know because it was an AI that told you to do it. And this is just really fundamental to why the American economy is kind of on a cliff right now. The reason we built AI that was good at this stuff is because people can immediately see that it's smart. And that feeds into the hype cycle. Any person right now can log in to ChatGPT and see, oh, hey, this AI, talking to this AI, it feels a lot like talking to a human in some ways. In most ways, I'd argue, actually. And that's really impressive. I should invest in this technology, because maybe when Sam Altman says, or Elon Musk says, that we're about to take all human jobs, that's actually kind of credible, because here we have something that's passing the Turing test, that it feels like talking to a human when you're talking to it. And so they say they're going to replace all human jobs. That's a huge market. And so we should pour all this money into what they're doing, even though when you look at the actual economic benefit of what they're doing, it's probably negative. They're driving up electricity costs. They're driving up water costs. They're doing so without providing, in many cases, even a social benefit at all. Because again, a lot of this is just being used for deepfakes, for frauds, for literally just deceiving people. And even if you assume that all of their revenue is not ill-gotten, that is all like used for good stuff, the depreciation alone on all of the data centers full of all these computers that are running these algorithms and stuff, the depreciation alone, that means how much value it loses, because chips lose value over time. Better chips come out, and chips themselves can degrade over time. They can go bad, especially if you're running them 24/7 like we are at these data centers for AI. Well, the depreciation alone from that, how much value they're losing, is multiple times bigger than all of the revenue they're getting. What it is it's a billionaire's fantasy that they can get rid of all the poor people and still be okay. That's the real end game here.